Hello, welcome back to another edition of the Orange and Blueprints podcast on the Bayou City Soccer Network. I know last week we didn't do one. Hey, and there was NWSL was on a break. We should be on a break as well. So I know it was a tough loss the last game, but we'll talk about that. But we need a good vacation, right, Diego? I know Diego needed a
Yes,
vacation.
yes. We were both in Orlando enjoying the humidity over there instead of the humidity here in Houston. But like Manny said, the NWSL received their summer break, and we thought it would be fitting for us to take some time away, be with family, and then regroup because, like again Manny said, we did have another sad game to report and to talk about, which I think it doesn't make you happy, but it certainly doesn't make me happy to talk about.
Yeah, I think it is what it is. I think at this point, like so much you expect from the team, but it goes good. One half it goes good, the other half it goes bad. I think that's been the whole season for the Dash. There's some games they show up and some days don't. But I know everyone's watching the Mexico game. I know. I have to. It's ironic that both USA team well get played today and they both won today. So,
Hmm.
but that's why rock and both wear the same jersey, the rocking strips, the stripes. Ooh, the stripes. Yeah, but
Nope. Go
nope,
Mex. Go Mexico.
no.
Go Mex.
But I know. Most of you are going to get back to the Mexico game, but I think just a recap for the game we had in North Carolina, North Carolina Courage. We thought the Dash was going to get run away with this game because literally the first minute, every got the ball, cut it in, and slotted it within 59 seconds of the game. It was just like perfect start for the Dash. She thought, okay, from here on, Dash is going to, maybe get a second one or even just control the game and not concede. But that proved to be not the case because, of course, and within literally in the second half, uh, the their courage came in, made a couple of substitute. Of course, what the turning point was Sarah Putigam's second yellow card would convert to a red, and that just opened the floodgates because Jane Shaw came in and Jane Shaw get her goal within 2 seconds from the red card, and then of course to seal the deal, Anna Belfort made the second goal and literally kicked off the game after that. So the game there was no way for the Dash to come back. I know it's been a while, Diego, but what was your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I certainly wasn't pleased, but this is kind of a similar result that we've seen throughout the season for the Dash. I felt like you mentioned it before the show, but it's always a tale of two halves. A half where they give a good effort, play like a cohesive team, like a cohesive unit, and then the other half it just falls apart or doesn't get going quick enough. This was another example of that. Avery Patterson, back from the national team, showcases her skill. This is her textbook move, cutting inside and hitting it with her power, with her force, and you could see that on the film room, 10 times, and 20 times, and 30 times, but that shot is still going in. The problem, the problem with the Dash currently is that there's no real option when that doesn't work. If Patterson isn't scoring, then you're not really going to get those chances to get any offensive output. And I mean, that's what the Dash have been severely lacking throughout the season. And I mean, this is kind of what cost them. Sarah, I mean, a captain for her national team, that second yellow, admittedly, was a difficult one to really decipher. But I mean, no player in that situation with her leadership experience should really be in that putting herself in that situation. So overall, I just thought it was a poor performance and admittedly great start, but it's not a great start until you finish with the 3 points.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a it was a hard game to watch. I think because like we always mention, like the Dash starts well or even finishes well, but they never could get the full 90 well. And so this was one of the games for it. I think most notably, I think you see the frustration of the team and everything. I think uh, the team does well defensively, but for some reason they just fall apart. You know, Sarah put the game, with her red card and everything, but other team players that should have stepped up, didn't. Ryan Garris as well, one of the notable players as well. And I think this point, I think the defense put a good shift. I don't think none of them had a bad shift. I think just has been as well. I think Jeff Strong mentioned as well for this game. Barbara has been defensively threat just as Avery, but not. I think the threat is not consistent. I think that's the issue right there, and I think as well who that Dash fans will also mention. Jasmine Ryan today. For the U.S. got her second goal in 2 games straight consecutive games. So it's like you do have talent, you do have attacking threat. I think it's just the players around the quality. It's like it's not really good. It doesn't really help players like Jasmine Ryan, Ivy Patterson, or even Barbara Oliveira to highlight their attacking threat. I feel like they
Hmm.
have to do more stuff in the game, but I think it is what it is. But also one thing before we move on, Jane Campbell's back on goal.
Hmm.
Uh, what you think about her performance? I think her eyes are more on her now that she's back on the lineup.
I mean, I thought she put in a great performance. I mean, I don't think she was nearly as tested compared to Abby Smith in the San Diego game, where she was facing shots basically every moment of the game. Um, but I mean, I don't think Campbell was convincingly good enough in order for her to really regain her spot. I hope to see her get another start against Monterrey and really continue to get those minutes in order to prove that. Um, because I mean, with Jane Campbell, it's not really a question of like, can you make the plays that you need to or the saves that you need to. It's when you are up against an elite offense and you're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 shots on target in a span of 30 to 40 minutes. Can you make those saves that you can? And can you really be the last resort for your defense? And so I think unless Campbell is truly tested on that front, we really can't judge her. But I think she put in a really solid performance despite the 2 goals being conceded, and I'm happy to see her get minutes. I think it's great for Fabrice to stay consistent with the philosophy of rotating players and giving everybody their moment and their opportunity to really get minutes. I see that consistency throughout the entire season, and so I mean I'm glad that he's sticking to that in the goalkeeper position. But I mean, yeah, I think Jane was solid, but I need to see more in order to be convinced with the answer of Abby or Jane.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Jane has been. I think it's kind of hard to because to distinguish. Jane has been some par with her early minutes in the season, but it's also due to the new system, the new way
Hmm.
how things are playing as well. And I think so. It's really really hard to determine that. I think just more eyes are on that. But one thing for sure, uh, I think it's just the cohesion of just making sure that all the players have a good solid 90 minutes. You just have spurts
Hmm.
of 20, 30 minutes, and that's pretty much it. And you see, oh, okay, this team can build on, but it just never builds on from that. It just continues just for that. And I think we're gonna go talk about it more, but should we move on some players or should we get on get get a whole new lineup or something? I think it's too early to talk about maybe off season removals, but with the transfer window, it did open up, yes, today or yesterday. So we're in that all the way to the end of August. So we have you know things to talk about. We have things to see. Uh, it's just how it is. But I think it's a good time since we're on the break to talk about more a little bit more about transfers. So Diego, the NWSL released their free agency list, and 5 Dash players were on it. Uh, Belle Breed, Evelina Dujan, Ryan Garris, Katie Lynn, and Abby Smith are currently under contract until the end of this year, so they're eligible to begin negotiations for 2026 for other teams or resign. You think it should be a bigger list than this? Like, how many players should leave, or it's like I think
I,
that's
th-
different. I know Joey jokes around. It's like Joey jokes around. Everyone can leave, but three players.
no, I think that's a pretty sizable list already. I mean, the biggest question mark, and this was something that I was meaning to ask you before the show. Ryan Garris is arguably the player that, besides Katie Lind, which I admittedly think is going to get re-signed. I don't
Hmm.
think she is really that big of a presence to get sent into free agency. So I do see her getting re-signed, but the big question mark is going to be on Ryan Garris. I mean, does she provide enough value with Fabrice's system and from what we've seen during the games in order to get herself an extension, or do you think it's best for her to to part ways and find a new club? So I was going to ask you the question of like Ryan Garris is currently in a very very difficult spot where she's shown very bright sparks, but also very dim sparks, and not really anything in between. Do you keep a player like that and hope for her to develop consistency and really push up the tempo, or do you just say we need to find somebody better on her position?
Uh, I think to me, I think we have to build someone on her position because it's like I think the sad thing is that I think we're happy that she went to maternity leave and have a child and everything,
Mhm.
but in the footballing scale, that hindered her progress as a player. She had a resurgence at the beginning of the year, but she began to die down to the norm where she was before she had, the maternity leave. And so it's very, very hard to see that. I think she came in with a lot of promise, a lot of speed. She was quick on the ball when she first came in. But I think after defenders found her few tricks, it died down a bit. So she wasn't really effective as she was in the beginning. Sadly, I think it's hard to see. It's hard uh, I think just to know what the club. But I think overall, I think the best thing for her and maybe for the club is to part ways. I know,
Mhm.
I know her husband moved to a different club. I think that has Utah, that has NWSL team. So
Hmm.
that will be good for them. But it's just really hard to know what will be the best option. But I think I think this transfer window that the perfect time to offload a lot of players, but I think you should because the Dash are eligible just to make one or two signings. This if they don't offload anyone, and so I think it's very crucial. I think if you want to stay in competition for playoffs, but you have to make a signing. You have to get rid of some players, and there's a lot of players that haven't been playing. Like even though Zoe Matthews got called up for the the under 20 women's national team, but she hasn't been playing at all. At literally 0 minutes for the team. You have other players that you know that haven't played consistently for the team, and you wonder, okay, you know, I know Alicia Chapman saw injury, but even before she was injured, she was never made out the lineup.
Mhm.
Kiki is back. I wish we see more of her. She has the grit. She plays for Jamaica. It's just very like that. I think. And my question to you,
Shout
Diego.
out to Kiki real quick for being able to play with her sister on the national team. That was a really cool moment. But yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I thought that was a really cool moment for her, and I thought I'd appreciate. I mean, it's been so bleak for the Dash. I thought I'd at least bring some bright spots into
Yeah,
what the players have been up to.
I know. Like OSG mentioned, like we signed Rebecca from Guillermo, and then she hasn't played at all for the
Mhm.
Dash. Well, that's is I feel like the Dash are always uh have that spark. Get a new young player. At first, it was Paulina Grimmalia. Oh, we're interested in the youth, and then they go into oblivious. I feel
Mhm.
like that's every time the Dash gets a player, but it's just very, very. I think you want this team to grow, but it's hard to see. Like they always stagnate at the same. I think the same area, the same part of the table every year. But I think from you, Diego, you think the Dash should push hard on this transfer window or wait for the off season? Uh,
I
I think
think
because
they should be measuring what players are available, but I think honestly they need to give Fabrice patience and a full offseason in order to make moves, in order to develop. Because right now, let's be honest, it's not Fabrice's team. It's the team that he inherited from a very dysfunctional Dash team that didn't work on many levels. And yes, there are bright spots. There are a lot of them. Like Avery Patterson is at the forefront of that, and then there's a bunch of youths. Kiki is another one that is a bright spot, and there's a lot of positivity. Barb is another one, um, but this is not really Fabrice's team. This is just the team that he was inherited, and so I think it needs to give him trust in this upcoming off season. But yes, if a player of a great quality is available, we need to pounce. We can't hesitate. And that sounds like very common knowledge, but it's something that needs to be said because this Dash team hasn't really been necessarily good at making these signings right. At when we were talking about Yazmeen Ryan getting signed to the Dash, we weren't talking about, oh wow, what a great signing from a great club. We were saying what a shocker that Yaz chose the Dash and chose the Dash project. And so I think we need to be better at pouncing and signing quality players when they're available.
and, exactly. I think Jeff Strong says that he somewhat disagree. Gautrat has a lot of new players and veterans
Hmm.
at that, but I think most of those players came in before he was signed in. Because he literally came in just before preseason started. And most of these players were done mostly in the off season, and especially like for instance, like a player like Maggie Graham, like was signed in
Yeah.
January, way before he ever was step in the scene. I bet he has conversation with it and everything, but it was before he was in the picture. Uh, I think I think um, I think it's somewhat true. It's more like Angela's team than
Yeah.
Gautrat's team because Angela was been here more than Fabrice Gautrat. But I think uh, the only thing I can tell you for sure that I do trust in Angela's recruitment
Okay.
because
Yeah.
bringing players like Yandy's Ryan, Dele Sheehan, our players are I think can fit anywhere in any other NWSL team, and make it a huge impact. To be honest, Jasmine and Shihan necessarily couldn't come, could have go to Seattle, could have gone to San
Yeah.
Diego and be affected over there. But they came. This chose to came here because I think just what Angela has promised, and Angela is really good on negotiations. I think it's just the question is how would the coach implement those decisions and what else. I think it's a good look to see what players needs to be moved on. Like I mentioned, Chapman hasn't. I think it's time to move on. Sophie Schmidt, just because just her minutes. I think, but it's Belle Breed. She's taking a roster position. She hasn't been on the pitch at all. So it's very, very, very hard to see what should the Dash move on. I think it's easy. I think it's always easy to remove, but very hard to add. Yeah,
Oh,
I think that's.
100%.
I think especially with this Dash team that has always been mediocre, so it's always hard to see. But any last thoughts uh, of people I think adding or removing, or what players need to be have more minutes.
I think a player that I feel like needs to get figured out is Maggie Graham. I understand that the reason Fabrice has been playing her as a fullback is particularly because of the lack of Avery Patterson when she's on international duty, but we still don't really know what she's gonna play as in the midfield under Fabrice's system. I just would like to see her get any like a consistent spot. But
Yeah.
in terms of like player additions, I feel like we need a better attacking mid because
Mhm.
when Barba's been in that position, she necessarily hasn't been consistent, and then that creates a problem for the Dash where we don't have an attack where Barb isn't there helping in the attack, and so we lack that. So So I feel like another attacking midfielder or another winger would really benefit us in order to get that flexibility with the roster that I can see Fabrice really liking.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think it's just so much. I think maybe for me, I would like an attacking piece, another midfielder. If we moved on, like the ones I mentioned, like Bubba Bree, Selfie Schmidt, uh, that will help with to be a box to box midfielder, and then of course maybe a defender as well. I just feel like uh, we looked for the future for another defender as well. We did with Tarciani. She was there and moved on, but I think it's just I think it's time for I think one of those key areas to to move on that's ready to compete and ready for the future. But speaking about the future, speaking of everything, I think the one that we see mostly of also, of course, Avi Patterson for U.S. Women's National Team, and the players that for international break. Michelle Losi's gone to Nigeria for women's AFCON. We of course you see Barbara on her way to Venezuela for the women's Copa America. And then, of course, today was the last game for Avery Patterson and Yazmeen Ryan for the women's U.S. women's national team, of course, and you see Kiki Van Santen as well. I think it's a good international break. It's a good time for the young players that don't have minutes to get minutes, and to for that I think. But I'm just a little bit concerned for Avery Patterson because, like Jeff Strong has mentioned, she is making waves in the U.S. women's national team as a left back, as a player that is very attacking and very good in transitional play for the women's national team. So I'm just afraid that sooner or later, a Dash might depart from her because of her great performance or interest from other teams. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the Dash?
I mean, it depends on how big the paycheck is. That's all I'm gonna say. If we're losing Patterson for like a record fee, then that's something. But if we get fleeced out of a player of our quality, then that's a different question. And I think that's Angela's task to be made. But the priority should definitely be to keep a player like that. Jeff commented perfectly. Yaz now has 2 games and for the national team and 2 goals back to back, and Avery's been completely killing it for the national team for not just this window but the previous one as well. Um, I think these are players that you definitely need in this transitional period, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
But you, I think the issues don't necessarily lie within should be or how can we keep these players. Rather, when they are absent in the national team, what are we going to do? Because most Dash fans were looking at the schedule when international break came and were saying, hey, these look like guaranteed losses because we don't have Patterson, because we don't have Yaz. And I'm like, that's exactly the problem that we need to figure out on. Because what if Patterson is out on international duty? What if Yaz is out on international duty? That's when signing players and developing players and getting your roster straight and your identity straight really comes into play, because you now know how to play regardless of who you have on your roster. And that prevents you from having those stretches where you're like 5 games, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of, oh, almost a guaranteed loss here. Um, like the San Diego game, for example, it was 3-0 down. We looked at the absence of Patterson on that lineup, and we just went, that looks like a guaranteed loss. Despite the push, I think it's a mentality thing of we need to make adjustments in order to not have that problem to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just varies to see how way I think the competition goes and how way things will go. I think we just need to start to see how this team builds and everything to the future as well. I think, but we'll see what that. I think we'll talk more in depth on that next week in our mid-season review. We'll talk about more predictions and everything and see how it goes. But before we leave and before, because I know Diego was like want to rush back to watch the Mexico. He's like
I've been
itching to.
watching the Mexico game, man. I've been watching the Mexico game. I told Manny before the show that I'm gonna go see the Gold Cup final, so
You gonna see the
I'm low-key
USA.
hoping to see that.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but we'll see. But um, before we go, we have two international friendlies during this break. Uh, so we have next week Tuesday for the Rayadas, and then we have later in July versus Carolina Crescent on July 20th on a Sunday as well. So the Sunday one is only for reserved for what's it called, for season ticket members. So, but it might be more additional will come out for other venues. For more ticket information will come out more as we'll see if it will be open for the public or not. But for sure for only season ticket members. So I think Diego, I know you're excited for this game as well. If it is for your Monterrey Rayadas, how you think this game is gonna pan out? I think
I think, I mean,
six.
with their quality, it's gonna be a tough challenge. But admittedly, we're talking about a team um, entering their season, and the Dash being in the middle of it. I think momentum's gonna be a big player in this game. Um, if I were to give a score prediction, I think it's gonna be like a 2-2 draw. I feel personally like Lingerie is a more skilled team than the Dash is on an overall front. Um, but I'm excited. I saw Rayadas play in Jersey against Gotham, and I was able to cover that match, and it was really well played, 0-0 draw. And I mean, I was able to upfront see work with the quality that team has. And so this is not a team to underestimate. I understand that we have had very successful nights at the Shell against Liga MX opponents, but this is not a matchup that we need to underestimate. I'm sensing a 2-2 draw still. I think Patterson in form, Yaz on form, discarding international play. If they are playing, we are going to have that momentum advantage of having played half a season. But I mean, again, I don't see us really being enough in order to contain players like Christina Birkenrode or Diana Garcia in the midfield. Um, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting game because as well it's gonna be a friendly, so it's gonna be just a match where players are still getting minutes before the NWSL comes back. As well, I gotta mention who's gonna be available. Of course, we know
Mhm.
Barb's not gonna be available. Michelle's not gonna be available. It really depends if Avery or Yasmin's are available because of they just came back from 3 games playing with the U.S.
Mhm.
women's national team. So I don't know if Fabrice wants to give him rest, and maybe Fabrice wants to see other players, who hasn't been on the squad, like hopefully Rebecca, hopefully for Zoe Matthews as well. So it's really and really hard to see, who is going to start. Belba Breed might get a shout. I was like, after not playing for a year, so
Mhm.
it's really hard to see what his lineup is gonna be. But I just hope it's competitive. I just hope that
Mhm.
since it's in preseason for them, about to start for the season, I hope the Dash can get a little bit of advantage on that. But it's really
Mhm.
hard to know what it's gonna be. But for sure, I could tell it's gonna be a big crowd ish. Uh, because the reason why I say ish, but because I forgot across the street on the Astro side, it's Friends Night, so a lot of people are gonna
Yeah.
be there for the Friends Night. So it's gonna be really hard to complete with that. But if
Yeah.
you are most likely if you're a Monterrey fan, you will already know and might probably buy your tickets for it. So do expect for a Monterrey heavy fan, especially with Diego sporting his jersey. He's gonna wear the
I
colors
will
for
not
sure.
be sporting my jersey because I will be covering the game, but safe to
Yeah,
say I might have a different allegiance to the Dash this time around. Gotta respect my local, which will forever be Monterrey.
yeah, yeah. So And so we'll see. Uh, I'll go with a 1-0 win to the Dash, but most
Okay.
likely it's gonna be like most likely it'll be a 2-3-2 game. But I just say that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the game plays.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be interesting because it's like I feel like we're back in preseason. I don't know how this team is gonna play. I don't see how it's gonna play because it's really unknown. It's really unknown because
Yeah,
you don't
100%.
think you would think you think they will go one way, but it might not. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but it is what it is. But I think that's pretty much what we have for today for recapping and seeing, and hopefully within the next week, players will come up. I think during the midseason review, we also might touch on the dates that the NWSL has planned for next year. This is the first time they actually release the 2026 schedule ahead of, they usually will announce like a month or two before the season actual
Mm-hmm.
starts. But now it's a good idea to have keen months. Ironically, just want to let this out for anyone who's listening. The NWSL final, the championship final, is on my birthday. So whoever buys me tickets for that, that's great. I love you. But
Manny,
it's
let's
just
pull up. Manny, let's pull up.
2026 pulling up.
Let's pull up to San Jose.
Nah, that's this year. But
That's
nah.
this
I'm
year.
talking about
What's next year then?
no. They won't announce until like the beginning of next season. But
Oh, okay. I thought San
yeah,
Jose was next year. I don't know why, but
yeah,
let's pull up. Let's pull up.
yeah,
Let's do a
yeah,
Orange and Blueprints dash 2026 and NWSL final.
yeah, yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. But it is what it is. But thank you all for stopping by for this good, short, tasty podcast. We always want to thank uh, our sponsor for Ugly Guppy, for Elotes Bravos, and We Got Soccer, especially that, we recorded last week. I know, like, Diego likes the word tasty, so that's why I put it in tasty. It's very
Why
tasty
did you say taste?
because at least we're more tasty than the Dash are at the moment. So
Something
we're
that is
tasty.
very tasty is Lotes Bravos. So go check
Oh
them
yeah,
out.
for sure, for sure. But I thank you for all for stopping by. Please always look out for us on our website, BayouCitySoccer.net, on X, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky. We're always there. I think we'll see by next week how things we are and see how the result with the Rayadas. So I think hopefully that we see more players come in. But that will be all.
Praying
Thank you
on
for
it.
all. We see you hopefully next Wednesday for that recap. All right. Take care.
All right.
Peace.